Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Talking Cardboard. My name is Cory. As always, if you like the content you see here on the channel, consider subscribing. We really do appreciate it. Today's video is all about the Gen Con preview list that is listed on the Board Game Geek website for games that are either being released at Gen Con or previewed at Gen Con or coming out a little bit later this fall or winter time that I am just getting really excited about. Obviously, there are the top hotness of games that are being buzzed and talked about all over the place right now, but I also wanted to name a few of the games that aren't getting as much buzz that I am still really excited to try out. So let's get started. And like I said in the opening of this video, there are some really hot games that are being talked about that I want to quickly go over, because obviously I'm excited about them too. I mean, who wouldn't be? If it's all the hotness and the rage and everybody's talking about it and you hear all these great things about it even before the game and or expansion has been released, obviously you're going to get excited about it. Some of those things are, firstly, the expansion, the first expansion for the Lost Ruins of Arnak, which it looks like it adds some great content and some much needed variability to the game for me. It adds variability in the different tech tracks that you can use, multiple different options for tech tracks, also some starting player powers with starting abilities that add some variability as well, and some new cards that you can mix in with all the different artifacts and items, and it looks like it adds some more goodness to the game and some more variability with that tech track. That was one of my biggest complaints in the base game, is that, or the research track. When you're going up the research track on the basic side of the board, it just seems way too easy to make it to the top. And also in a number of the games that we played on the harder side, the Snake Temple side, where that research track is a little bit more difficult, we still seem to be able to make it to the top fairly easily. So I'm looking for some variability in the research tracks, a little bit more difficulty settings that would make it a little bit more difficult for people just to go after, just that strategy. And if you just focus on that strategy, it's almost automatic win, if not a ton of victory points every time you play. So that is one of the things I'm looking forward to. Obviously, more card content is always a great thing to mix into those decks. So there's more variability with the cards that are coming up, and then also starting player powers or unique starting characters for each game also adds some fun and uniqueness to it as well. So more variability is always a great thing. The next game that is all the rage that I've been hearing about a lot online that is being shown off at the show is called Origins First Builders. Origins First Builders. The theme alone got me really excited, and the fact that I heard that it's a Euro game that is driven by dice worker placement, those three things just really got me excited. Obviously, I love my Euro games. I really love dice worker placement games, and the theme behind this one is really cool, where it's almost like these superpowers or aliens actually came down to Earth, and that's how we got like the pyramids and all the great architecture and different wonders of the world. And they are the ones that originally came down and kind of built all these things out on the Earth many years ago. And this game is all about that. I don't know exactly how that ties in, but that theme alone just sounds really cool. How it kind of explains. Fictionally explains how we got, the different wonders of the world and that sort of thing, mixed in with dice worker placement. From what I've seen, there are different places on the board that you can send dice to, and depending on the value of the die, they give you different actions, but also the dice are all different colors. So if you can manage to match the color of die with a certain spot, you get a bonus action with it too. So it's all about, it looks like placing the correct dice in the right spots to get you what you need. But not only that, if you can manage to get the correct color die with that, then you also get these bonuses, which seems really neat. It seems like a kind of a cool, tough decision. Could make for some really tough decisions in the game, and that's what I like in my Euro games too, is just a lot of strategy and a lot of tough decision making, and it looks like Origins First Builders will definitely give that to us. The last game I wanted to talk about that is all the rage, at least for me, I am just extremely excited about it. And from what you've seen, maybe from what you've seen recently, is that the whole dinosaurs theme has really been just on a rampage the last few years. And this is the new game from Panasaurus Games, the follow-up to Dinosaur Island. This game is Dinosaur World. And I did really enjoy Dinosaur Island. I think I gave it, I would give it probably about a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed the heck out of that game. But I have recently gotten rid of it in preparation for Dinosaur World because it just seems like it is more of a sequel to Dinosaur Island, where they're just adding a little bit, some cool things to it, and just a little bit more to the game, a little bit more gamery for what I was, what I was hoping for. The coolest mechanism in Dinosaur World that is different from Dinosaur Island is that you actually have a Jeep that is traveling through your park every turn or every round, and you can send visitors through your park using that Jeep to gain excitement points through your park. So you're fitting your park with different kinds of dinosaurs and caging them in and trying to increase your security to make sure dinosaurs don't get out and eat people and that sort of thing. Very similar to Dinosaur Island in that respect. You're also building attractions and just trying to build kind of the best dinosaur theme park you can, which, back in the day, the old computer games, the Roller Coaster Tycoon and that sort of thing, I just loved the heck out of those games too. So it kind of mixes that theme park, Roller Coaster Tycoon type of feel with a dinosaur park, but then adds some other things on top of what existed in the original game in Dinosaur Island with the Jeep and traveling through your park. And each round, when you're sending your visitors through, trying to get that excitement rating up with also trying to maintain a safe environment at your park, safe enough to where people are not getting killed each time that they visit your park. So the theme, obviously, I'm not much of a theme person, but when they slap a really cool theme onto a Euro-style game with those Euro mechanisms and just point gathering and all those things I like, I get really excited about that. So definitely looking forward to Dinosaur World. Hopefully that comes out soon. I'm on Board Game Geek on my laptop over here right now, and it says the release date is Q4 of this year. So that can mean any time coming up in the next few months here. So very excited about that. So now we're going to get into some of the games that look super interesting to me that aren't being talked about a ton. The first of which being Savannah Park, which looks like it says in the description here, help animals form big herds by cleverly relocating them within your wildlife park. So it looks like a tile placement game that you're kind of bringing these animals into your park. You've got these wildlife fires that you're trying to keep your tiles away from, because then the animals can die from those wildfires, so you're trying to keep them away. But from the description here online, it looks like you are putting some pressure on other people's wildlife parks too, and based on the decisions you're making on where to move your tiles around, your opponents then have to move their tiles along with you, and you're trying to not only get your tiles into the correct areas on your board, on your own personal board, but also trying to manipulate your opponent's boards in such a way that has a negative impact on them. It sounds, the reason why I'm talking about this one first is this isn't my most exciting, or I'm not the most excited about this. I still am, but the next four that I'm about to talk about are, I'm even more excited about. But that the reason why it made this list is that it's from designers Kramer and Kiesling. And Kramer and Kiesling have come up with some of my all-time favorite games. I know Kramer was a part of Heaven and Ale with Kiesling. Kramer and Kiesling were Heaven and Ale, which I just really love Heaven and Ale with that tile placement too. And they just do some wonders with not only gameplay mechanisms, but also integrating unique and cool gameplay mechanisms with tile placement. But also Kiesling was a part of Coal Baron, which is another kind of older title that I really do enjoy. So at least a couple big name games for me that are mainstays in my collection have at least been designed by one of these two designers in the duo, and that I'm excited about Savannah Park for that reason, just for those designers having such a great track record. And I know sometimes that gets you into trouble, but I am prepared to be disappointed, but also excited at the same time. So moving on to the next game here on the list. So this game is called Overdrive. You are drafting a team of aliens, mechs, and monsters in this action-packed arena sports game. So this is a 2-player only game, which is a little bit of a turnoff for me. I don't necessarily like 2-player only games, but the reason why this got me really excited is it seems like there's some advanced gameplay in this game where you can choose to be the coach of your own sports team. So you and your opponent are each coaches of the sports team, and at the beginning of each round, it looks like there are 8 rounds in the game, but at the beginning of each round, you are drafting these players to make out your team, your sports team of players, and they consist of, like it says here, mechs, monsters, and aliens, and all these cool things that the players have unique powers, and based on how well you draft your sports team and bring them down to the table and play a game, one match against your opponent's team, how well they do, it's kind of a tug of war system where if you can get enough points to bring the tug of war system onto your side of the table, you have won the match for that round. And then you draft and try to advance and make your team better each round that you play. And over 8 rounds, whoever has, I think, gotten the most victories out of that is the winner. But tug of war systems, they haven't been used a ton, but I do really like the tug of war mechanism. It always feels like you're in the game no matter what. It doesn't feel like there can ever be a chance for a runaway leader, because one big play in a game can really sway the game one way or the other with that sort of mechanism. And the fact of just being a coach of a sports team for a fantasy league of monsters, mechs, and aliens and that sort of thing, drafting cards to make out your team and then sending them out on the board to see how they do against your opponent. I've really loved the heck out of that main mechanism too, all the way stemming back from games like Magic the Gathering and other collectible card games where you are formulating your own custom deck or drafting your own custom deck, bringing it to the table to see how it does against your other opponents. So that's always really appealed to me, and it looks like that's what this game is all about. Moving on to the next game that I am really excited about. It is called Star Scrappers Cave-In. In Star Scrappers Cave-In, it is a game for 2 to 4 players where you take on the role of entrepreneurs that are kind of going into this mine and trying to basically be scrappers, but for crystals. So you're trying to gather these crystals in various ways before the mine collapses. So you're gathering these things, get out before the mine collapses, and whoever has the most victory points by the time the mine collapses on itself wins the game. But it does this in a cool way again, where you are recruiting mercenary laborers and sending them into the mine to collect these crystals. On your turn, you've got 4 different actions to choose from. You can choose 2 of those 4 actions to do, and that is it for your turn. Some of the actions include recruiting new mercenaries to your team, which is really neat. You can use a special ability on one of your mercenaries as a different action, or as another action, you can send them in to collect artifacts, and your last option for actions is to send them in for crystals. So you're either sending them in for artifacts, sending them in for crystals, you are either recruiting new mercenaries, or you're using a special ability on one of the other mercenaries who you've already recruited, but you only can choose 2 of those 4 things every turn. So you might really want to recruit somebody before your opponents, but you really need to get into that mine to collect an artifact, or wherever you're going into the cave to collect an artifact or to collect crystals. And it's kind of that balance between, creating that anxiety of, oh shoot, I really need that mercenary or to use this special ability on the card, but that'll waste all my actions for this turn when also I need to get into that cave to collect either the artifacts or the crystals that I need to complete my goals or to get the most points. And I think that that tension and that anxiety that the game will create for me will be hopefully when I try this, it'll be the tension that I really strive for when I look for a good game. And again, recruiting things with special abilities just seems like a new fun thing that I don't have a lot of games like that in my collection. So if I can add that to my collection, or at least get a copy to review for the channel, hopefully I'm surprised in a good way. So that is Star Scrappers Cave-In. And the next game I wanted to talk about just seems like a really silly, fun racing game called Bayou Bash. And it kind of seems like it's got like the artwork of like Crash Bandicoot, and then, it's got, it looks kind of like a Mario Kart type of game. But what really appeals to me about this game, it definitely does represent kind of the Mario Kart feel. By reading the description here, you are trying to race along a map or a track and, try to punish your opponents and shoot different things at them and slow them down and manipulate them in different ways to try to get ahead of them to win the race. But what really appeals to me about this is kind of what Snowtails took on back when Snowtails first came out. If you guys are familiar with that game, where the track can be completely variable with these different tiles, and each time you can randomize the track in different ways. So It'll throw some new fun and excitement each time you play, where the track is completely different, and the different abilities and different racers you choose will give you a fun, kind of exciting new puzzle to solve each time, and what your opponents choose to do to you when, and what you choose to do to them when during the race, to slow them down. Or that's what's always really been appealing to me about like the Mario Kart style games. The artwork looks fun, light, silly. The name Bayou Bash, I mean, it rolls off the tongue nicely. It seems like just a good time. Games like this can kind of really go south in a hurry. Not to play off of the Bayou name going south here, but it can have a turn for the worse depending on how the game is designed. I think racing games are really difficult to design well and really difficult to make fun. But fingers crossed, I'm just hoping that they can do this in such a way that brings new light to the racing genre of games, where it'll be fun, exciting, silly, and a good time to just pull out and play with friends in a short amount of time and just have a blast playing. And like I said, there have been racing games obviously in the past that just don't do it very well, and the racing genre really is a finicky thing, so hopefully they do it well and bring some new light to the racing genre of games, and that is Bayou Bash. Okay, and the last game I wanted to talk about today is the newest game from Restoration Games. If you're not familiar with Restoration Games, what they do is they take an old game from the past, from yesteryear, and revamp it and refurbish it with new artwork, new gameplay mechanisms, kind of bringing it to light with modern day design mechanisms and just bringing it new light and new life to older games. And this game is called Key to the Kingdom. So by the description here, it looks like Key to the Kingdom is a cooperative game where you're sending a band of heroes out to gather 3 fragments or 3 pieces of a key to connect the key to ultimately win the game. And I'll just kind of go over the description here. It says this new version gives players greater control over the whims of the dice. You'll use your collection of items to tweak your rolls. Make sure you have the right item ready when you go on an adventure to give you an easier path through. So I don't know much about this game. The original Key to the Kingdom came out back in 1990, so I was 1 year old at the time. I don't remember this game at all. And obviously, bringing it to new light and new life here, I am excited to now finally try it for the first time. And I really like these cooperative style games where you really have to work together to figure out the overall puzzle to the game and ultimately beat it. I'm not a huge fan of cooperative games where it allows quarterbacking to take place, where one person can really take over the game and just tell you what to do. And, oh yeah, I've played this game 5 times before. I know exactly what to do to win the game. So I hope Key to the Kingdom brings a difficult enough challenge to the table each time. Hopefully it's not too light. Hopefully it's, gamery enough to where it's a challenge every single time, if not really difficult to beat. I like my cooperative games being extremely difficult to beat and work as a team to complete missions. That just seems really cool. It says there's some dice rolling in it, but it brings on new modern mechanisms on how to manipulate dice and turn dice to different sides for what you need. And it kind of sounds like by that description that maybe the original game that came out in 1990 was just more of a roll your dice, maybe push your luck, and what you roll is what you get. So now maybe with gathering some more items and different adventurers and to use those in various ways seems really, really cool to me. And definitely that is something I enjoy in some other games that I've played. Whenever you have dice, I like the design effort to put in some dice mitigation, because without that dice mitigation, all it is really is luck or push your luck, and I'm not as much into that. I like to be more in control of the overall strategy or puzzle of the game, and hopefully Key to the Kingdom does that for me. So that wraps it up for today's video. I hope you like the list of the games I'm excited about, and maybe I brought some unique or some games you haven't heard of to the forefront that you are now going to be able to check out. I'm not one of the lucky ones. I wasn't able to get out to Gen Con this year, unfortunately, but I am doing my best to do my research online here and bring some content to you all anyway. Having not been there, hopefully I can get there next year and provide some video content from the convention itself, which would be a whole lot of fun to do. And if any of the publishers from the convention stumble across our video here, I know slim chance, right? Yeah, me being a small-time YouTube creator with high hopes, who would think these big-time publishers would stumble across it? But If you have stumbled across this and you stayed through to the end of this video and you were watching this and want to send us a copy of your game to feature here on the channel, let me know in the comments below, and we can private message each other and get that to the table here as soon as possible to hopefully generate some buzz about your game. If it's great, you know, if it's not good, don't send us it, but if you do really have a great game on your hands and want to send it to us, I would definitely be welcome to that. So for all of you who are at Gen Con, you all have a great time for me. For all of you who are not at Gen Con like me, well, hopefully you have a great weekend gaming anyway. And until next time, you all have fun gaming.